Hello again, Dan Alasso, making history. It is day 41, I believe, of my retrenchment journey. And yesterday, as I think I mentioned, Bemidji State's Faculty Senate met in the late afternoon. I didn't really feel like driving all the way back to campus, although it's not that far. So I joined about half a dozen other faculty members and watched it via Zoom. I'm not a senator, so I don't get to speak at these things. And of course, given my situation, I probably wouldn't have spoken anyway. I suppose I had an experience in this Zoom room similar to that of students who try to tune into a hybrid class. It was abysmal. The meeting was held in a brand new classroom in the new classroom building, which was built with no offices, actually. And it supposedly uses the most up-to-date technology. The camera in the back of the room was working, so I was able to see the Faculty Association president and mostly to hear what he had to say, although I will say the sound wasn't very clear. There are also a bunch of hanging mics in the classroom, which is a room that I have taught in several times over the past several semesters. But these were not working, or the speaker didn't know how to use them. So I was unable to hear anything else that anybody else in the room said, other than the president up at the front. I can only imagine what a turnoff that would be for a student tuning in remotely to a discussion class. Now, the president was apparently aware that no one on Zoom could hear anyone but him because several people mentioned it in the chat. A couple of times he remembered to reiterate a question or a comment that another speaker had made before he responded to it. A couple of times the executive assistant of the Faculty Association actually typed a couple of the comments or questions into the chat. But that didn't last long. And as a result, it was like listening to one side of an old-fashioned telephone conversation. I think I got the gist of most of it, but I couldn't really tell how and why some of the choices that were made were made. There were several long discussions. Several of them had very little interest for me. I won't be around next year, so I'm not at all interested in how the new executive of the BSU Foundation is going to help departments connect with the community, which in any case mainly means connect with regional businesses in the future. I was a little bit interested in the ways the communications and marketing department is being reorganized under the new VP of Enrollment Management. They're apparently going to hire an executive director for that, so the VP of Enrollment Management won't be managing that department directly. Which is odd because I thought there was a hiring freeze on. Now, this new position is going to manage communications and marketing for both BSU and for NTC, Northern Technical College. So maybe NTC is paying for it. But I'm still surprised there was no pushback on that I could distinguish. What I did notice was a kind of longish discussion about the best ways to comply with this new VP and give her what she needs from the departments. There did seem to be some generalized dissatisfaction among the people that I couldn't hear about the ongoing kind of crappy nature of BSU's web presence. And the backstory of that is that departments used to run their own websites, but that power was taken away from them in the name of standardization, and then the new standardized sites were never actually completed. The thing that struck me most was the kind of obsequious nature of the Senate's relationship with this relatively new vice president, who, in my experience, and I have interacted a bit with this person, has not really delivered any value. The final big items, which I was interested in hearing about and which had been the reason that I had tuned in, were the retrenchment and the reorganization. There was some discussion of the president's communication with the chancellor of the system's office downstate, which seemed to indicate that there would be no more retrenchments this year, but that they would be back in the fall for more faculty if the financial numbers didn't improve. It didn't seem to me that this fact made that much of an impression. The president of the organization said something about how that would be when programs would really be eliminated and when the structure of the institution would be radically changed. And this seemed to suggest to me that the Faculty Association doesn't really believe that that's happening this year. And personally, I think they might be a little bit surprised in January when the administration announces the restructuring plan. And then the response to the dean's proposal for restructuring the colleges was discussed. But not really, at least as I could hear it. I didn't hear much said about the actual proposal itself, which includes collapsing 3 colleges down into 2 and 22 departments into probably fewer than 10 interdisciplinary schools. This is a big, radical change. What I did hear was more discussion about whether and how to even respond to the dean's request for a conversation about this. Apparently, the Faculty Association considers this Hail Mary proposal by the deans as just another ask from management. There seemed to be some talk about how it's really not the faculty's job to do this kind of planning, and that management can't force them to do this type of work, especially not without compensation. There was some discussion about whether the Academic Affairs Committee of the Senate should be the group to respond. But ultimately, I think it was decided that they had other important work to do, and so an ad hoc committee should be created. So I guess that's what will happen. Actually, I'm guessing because I left the meeting before they ever got around to taking a vote on it. The Senate, I guess, will establish an ad hoc committee and then will issue a call for volunteers to fill it. And one thing that I did hear was that they will report to the Senate, not to the deans or to other administration, because you can't make us, or some such logic. When this will happen and how effective it will be, I can only guess. But my guess is not very quickly and not very effective. But I will report how it goes, when it goes, if it goes. And in the meantime, I hope you found that a little bit interesting. I found all of this frustrating but interesting. So thanks for watching, and I will see you again.